white privilege isn't real. It's not a real thing. It's a coin. It's a made up term, and here's why: because white doesn't really have the white race really has no good working definition. We have a good working definition for what Native American is. I'm 68% Native American. All Native Americans are related to each other. We can trace our ancestors back to a small group of families that came across the Bering Strait. The direct ancestors of all Native Americans still live in the Siberian Peninsula, the Churka people. And they go around herding reindeer and living in tribes and living in teepees. They live pretty much the same way our ancestors did. They're still there. Problem with white ethnicity is that it has no real good definition. We think of white usually, often it's used to describe Europeans, but even among Europeans, they have different opinions and definitions for what white is. The gypsies, they look a lot like me. They're part of Europe. They've been part of Europe for thousands of years. Are they considered white? A lot of Europeans would disagree that they are considered white. But the invention of the white race. Okay, let's go back to 1619 when the first Africans arrived in Virginia. There were no white people, not according to colonial records. And there wouldn't be for another 60 years. The creation of white race was created by the ruling class as a method of social control. It was in response to labor unrest precipitated by the Bacon's Rebellion, distinguishing European Americans from African Americans within the laboring class. White privileges enforce the myth that white race through the years have been central to maintaining ruling class domination for the entire working class. The problem is that it completely ignores the Irish white working class people, Italian working class people. Just about any race throughout history in America has been discriminated against. The white Americans born on American soil discriminated against new Americans coming in from Great Britain, even though they're completely related. They're from the same country because they were born here. So throughout history, there's always been discrimination. And same for Native Americans, there wasn't a central identity of what Native Americans were. We were fighting amongst each other just as much as white Europeans coming in. And it's because we squabbled amongst ourselves over tribal warfare that it allowed for for the colonization of the United States, for our land itself to be stolen from us, because we were fighting amongst ourselves instead of rallying against a common cause. We finally rallied around the common cause, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. And this is what's happening nowadays. The privileged class, the owner means of production, the upper middle class are still using the term white privilege to keep working class people fighting amongst ourselves. That's what they're doing. They don't want us to rally behind a single cause of taking back the means of production, participating in the workplace, and trying to shape a future that benefits working class people. Keeps us fighting amongst ourselves. And the problem with the liberal idea of moving colored people, minorities, people that transgenders, gays, lesbians, colored people up the ladder, they think they're going to solve the problem of inequality. Don't change the hierarchy or the capitalist system that continues to perpetuate social economic differences. No, you just shuffle the cards and move few privileged few up the rungs. That's not going to change anything. You still have the same system there that continues to exploit working class people. I don't see white working class people as more privileged than I am. A few of them might get bigger scraps than I do, but that doesn't mean they're more privileged. We're fighting for a tiny fraction of the pie. The bigger pie piece is owned by just a few, like Bernie Sanders says, the 1%ers. They own almost all the wealth. They own all the property. They own all the means of production. They monopolize their lizard tentacles are in all facets of the economy. They're the ones keeping you down, not some poor working class family eating bologna sandwiches in their trailer. You know, they're not the problem. They are not the problem. The problem is, as long as we, as liberals, continue to perpetuate white privilege, they're going to have white working class family voting for Trump. I don't know how many white working class people I've seen vote for Trump because the Democratic Party used to be a party of working class people. They're not. They haven't been for a long time. And they continue to ignore working class people because they think that if we only focus on upper middle class people and our corporate donors, the working class people follow suit. They have nowhere else to go. They're not going to go vote for the Republican Party because they definitely don't have their interests in mind. And what happened during the election? So many white working families voted for Trump. A lot of colored people did too, because they know the Democratic Party is just as corrupt as the Republican. It's just the Republican ones are more honest about their corruption.